Hey everyone, a little late to the party, but I wanted to discuss Ant-Man 3 and the underlying worries for the MCU. In a later video, I really want to dive into the entire MCU as a whole and discuss the future of the franchise, but for now, let's take a look at what Ant-Man tells us about Phase 5 coming up. So, this doesn't really feel like an Ant-Man film. It's very disconnected from the series and what we've got so far, and it does not work as a third film. If this is the last Ant-Man film, this was not a great way to leave off. There's no really feeling of culmination to anything. It doesn't even have to be wrapping up characters, but there's no character arcs at all. It's just Scott saving his daughter and then fighting Kang. Even the family turmoil at the start with Michelle Pfeiffer's character and the rest of the family is never really concluded. She's just like, yeah, so all this shit is happening and that's it. No real characters have any development. I mean, all Hank does is talk about how cool ants are and says a few one-liners. The only person with an actual development is the fucking joke characters. Robo Chad's goofy looking ass turned good because why not? And Slime Dude over here is getting holes. That aspect of the movie is particularly quite empty. I personally was hoping for a bigger showcase of Kang. He was very charismatic and had moments showcasing his power. He beat the brakes off of Scott, but in the end, they started introducing Kang to film by having his entire army and reign that he's worked years to build get destroyed within what seems like a day or two by a few characters. Like, bruh, it would have been so much more impactful if the characters infiltrated the castle and fought Kang rather than destroying everything he had in a few minutes. And also, if you're trying to build up Kang, it would have made more sense if he beats the brakes off of everyone and they barely escape. I even would have gone as far as killing off Scott. Or any character really. I mean, they have a cast of characters here that they can choose from and they choose to kill none of them. Anything like that would have really left a stamp on the film and an impact for Kang, who is supposed to be the next Avengers level threat. I get that he's always been more of a numbers thing rather than an all-powerful being, but like, man, he got shit on. Even if they wanted Kang to not come out on top, there's better ways to do that besides having him get destroyed by everyone in the end, losing everything and presumably dying or at least being defeated. Also, it doesn't help that everyone around Kang and all of his helpers is either a goofy ass character that feels out of place or a mindless stormtrooper who gets ran through. It feels like a bunch of level 1 NPCs as set pieces and then there's just Kang. That's fine to have for action, but they don't do anything besides get their ass kicked and fumble around. I like Kang as a character, and Jonathan Majors saves this from being a complete character disaster, but damn, they could have done so much more. You gotta love the extremely generic story tropes too, like do this or I'll kill your family, or all the rebellion shit. Honestly, I could not care less about the quantum realm and the people there. It put me right to sleep, I'm sorry. I don't know how many times I've seen rebellions in modern hero movies, especially the MCU, and they're always filled with jokey, barely fleshed out characters, and there's always one character that has deeper underlying heroics. It was okay, but when we're at this point into the MCU and modern film, 30 plus films, we really need some strong character development and unique ideas. Since we've seen it so many times before, it takes something that could be okay and just whatever and makes it bad because it just becomes repetitive. This also felt remarkably uninspired when it comes to cinematography and CGI. It's the MCU, you can expect a lot of characters standing behind CG backdrops, but the presentation of the quantum realm did not seem interesting whatsoever. The best thing I can say about it is it felt like a C-tier Star Wars set. The desert, the forest, the slums, the cantina, it was all just generic. This just doesn't have the charm of the first two Ant-Man movies either. Although Kang is a much more charismatic and interesting villain, somehow they traded that off for very unfun moments with the main characters, especially Paul Rudd. For an Ant-Man movie, it feels like we don't see a lot of Paul Rudd, and what we do, it doesn't feel like what Ant-Man has been. This movie really presents the bigger issue for the Marvel Universe, and it's something that tons of people have said before, but it just needs to get away from this formulaic pattern. You can literally name off certain key story pieces that are going to be in every Marvel movie. There's always some triumphant rebellion moment. There's always a jokey side character that's there even throughout the battle that just kind of overstays its welcome. And it feels like every character, even the heroes, are kinda similar. There's no charm or uniqueness to the quippy characters because every character is quippy. Every character makes the same Marvel jokes, and it just feels like everyone has the same personality. I think Marvel really needs a serious story. Like a grounded, serious, character-motivated piece. The quippy, rushed, one-off movies just feel formulaic. The stakes just continually feel less important because each movie is introducing a world-beater villain. Give me a villain centered around character motivation and personal battle, save the other shit for the Avengers. That's one of the reasons I really like Wakanda Forever, because there's a lot of rich themes behind the character motivations. Although yes, their end goal is world domination, it was the motivation and also the personal battle against Wakanda that made it interesting. Inspired cinematography, interesting concepts, and fresh new characters that helped out as well. In the end, I think Ant-Man just didn't do enough to stray from that formula, and although I think it's an alright film and Kang is cool, it just sinks into that repetition that hurts its overall enjoyment. I am still invested into the MCU and excited for its future. I mean, I really hope they do Kang justice with the Avengers movie coming up. And like I said, there's still good moments in the MCU. Phase 4 as an overall wasn't a total failure. I think the highs were really high and the lows were really low. That's what you get when you're 30 films in. I mean, you're either gonna get something really spectacular or it's all gonna sink into repetition. Let me know your thoughts on the MCU as a whole right now. I know it's a very polarizing thing, so I'm looking forward to diving into all 30 plus movies, but for now, I'm gonna leave it here. Much love, peace.